But at least when the child is in the car, we know they're safe against prying eyes. Because in Big Brother's Britain, you never know, do you?
You can't go to a playground without seeing it. Playground just round the corner, I take my little boy, and there's a great big sign saying you may not enter this playground unless you have a child with you. Why not? Because you might be a paedophile.
This hysteria about paedophilia has rendered me always on edge. I was on a tube the other day and a little boy stuck his tongue out at me. So naturally enough, I stuck mine back at him and he stuck his out and I thought, well, I'll escalate this. So I went back to him and he went to me. And then this woman looked at me and said, you paedophile. And I thought, oh, how shocking, what a shame. I couldn't have a little silly little game with this little boy without being kind of vilified and really humiliated on the train.
Yes, they've become our little princes and princesses, haven't they? When our grumpy old men were kids, we were told to be seen and not heard and given a good clip round the ear just in case we did something wrong. The world revolved around whatever our middle-aged parents wanted to do. Now we're middle-aged, and probably parents ourselves, the world revolves entirely around the little darlings. Oh, look at him, isn't he cute and talented? He's having flute lessons and dance classes and passing all his exams, and we must take him to France this year to improve his languages. Yes, he's growing up to be a right little sissy.
People treat children as though there is something wrong with them because they're ignorant and small. And people say, I'm so worried about Alexander's development. I mean, he's got no grasp of bonded number, no concept of phonics. His hand-to-eye coordination is all over the place. I mean, goodness knows what he's going to be like when he's born.
When I was a kid, you could go out and you could ride your bike up and down the road and get apples off trees without too much fuss. If you got caught, the local copper would whack you around the head, take you to your dad, tell him what had happened, then your dad would whack you around the head.
On Saturdays, I used to leave home at 9 in the morning and not come back until I was really hungry or it was getting dark. And my parents didn't know where I was and didn't particularly care because they didn't need to, they weren't worried.
They banned climbing trees in schools and they banned pass the parcel and musical chairs because it creates aggressive kids. They've banned backstroke in one pool up north I read about. I mean, please let us get on with our lives.
They don't want children to be competitive with each other for some namby-pamby reason or other. I'm quite grasped this. You know, apparently it's bad for them to actually want to be better than the next child.
It's missing the point, you know. You get all that, I mean, it's about sort of through competing and achieving something, actually making yourself a better and a better person.
Oh, and just in case we thought it was okay to bring up our children the way we were brought up, or that we might know or have learnt something about it ourselves, there's the big brother alongside us once again, making sure we do it Nanny's way. And what we hate most about it is that it makes us sound exactly like our dads. No, worse than that, exactly like our granddads.
I was on a plane recently. There was a couple in front of me, and with a horrible little brat of a 7-year-old. And they just put on the headphones, turned up the music, and they said, go and play somewhere else. So the little kid's running up and down the plane, driving everybody else potty, because the parents didn't want to sort him out. It was awful.
I think kids, it would hurt if a kid got a smacked arse now and again.
These idiot parents you see paraded in the columns of the Daily Mail who tell you that they spend £3,000 a year on their little tiny tweeny daughter's outfit. I mean, for God's sake, they ought to know better, didn't they?
I gave my little boy his holiday money the other day, and for being on holiday, and
go back
he came
Chelsea
back,
Strip with this, son.
And do you know what he bought?
What?
He bought a miniature fridge. Why do you want a miniature fridge? And he said, so that I can lie on the couch and watch telly and I don't have to move to get the, I don't know, whatever it is he's doing. I'm middle-aged. He's 11. And already he's got it all.
I mean, if I'd said to my parents, I want a new pair of trainers and it'll cost 80 quid, they'd have looked at me as if I'd just come down the chimney or descended from a spaceship or something, because it couldn't be done.
And who can we blame for that? If it's not the government's fault, it must be the fault of the telly. Not like in our day when the telly was only on for a few hours a day and it was all brought to us by Auntie. Before there were those rather vulgar commercial people.
I think it all went belly up really when the advertising agencies and the manufacturers realised the power of advertising on TV aimed at kids.
We've turned children into consumers. And of course, they always have been for all the obvious reasons, but in a completely different way now. And they really do know what everything costs and why they have to have it. And that's sad in itself.
Shame, really, you know. I mean, children seem to be morons these days, really, don't they, mostly? Most children now are illiterate morons. Shame.
So it's everywhere we look. Don't do this, don't do that. Watch out for this. Signs letting us know that Evel Knievel is up ahead. Signs warning us that the couple in the car behind are having a row. Oh, look, there's a man ahead having trouble with an umbrella. And what on earth do you suppose has happened to this poor building to make it so terrified?
High voltage, danger of death. What will not put you off anything is danger of death. Danger of electrocution? Oh dear, I don't be electrocuted.
I saw another one, bleach bottle, that said contents not to be treated as a beverage. So I suppose puts an end to rum and domestos before bedtime.
Here's one. I bought a sofa the other day, and I was sent an instruction leaflet on how to use it. Which I presume, I didn't actually open it, but I presume you just sit on it.
My favourite of all time was the Superman cape for kids from Toys R Us that said cape's not designed to, doesn't enable actual flight.
Look, it's not to do with genuine concern for our welfare. That's the important thing to remember. It is fuck all to do with people caring about us. It is simply that they don't want us to sue them.
Yes, that's right. It's because if you get drunk and trip over a bump in the pavement 3 millimetres high,
you could be entitled to £10,000 or whatever it is, as of right. It's like this kind of bizarre lottery. So that any misfortune, anything that happens to you in the normal course of life, you're going to be rewarded for.
We had somebody in the cafe a few years ago tripped up. We had a white strip on the one bit of step there, but it was dirty, all right? It wasn't quite white enough. Tripped up, sprained his ankle, and we got sued for, £5,000 for sort of time off work and stuff. And you just think, for God's sake, watch where you're putting your feet.
My father-in-law runs a big supermarket in Ireland, and he's seen people on camera practicing falls to break their arms. He's had people suing them because they've slipped on one of his shop leaflets that happened to be on the doorstep of their house.
It wouldn't surprise me, outside every major law firm in this country, if the lawyers hadn't deliberately actually raised the level of some of the pavements so that they could be standing outside. So immediately, over you go. Before you can even help yourself up, there's a sort of a guy wearing pinstripe trousers and sort of fangs coming rather neatly out of his mouth like that, saying, "Can I help you?"
I can't bear to read one more story about some moron earning £20,000 a year who's borrowed £2 million on 50 credit cards and then blames the banks for lending him the money. It's absolutely outrageous. I think the rise of these insurance companies that encourage us to make claims, often spurious claims, it's an absolutely insidious effect in Britain.
I want an advert that says, "Had an accident in the afternoon, tough tits. Look where you're going. You bloody idiot."
Yes, Nanny knows best what's good for us, and Big Brother is watching to make sure we do her bidding. Don't do this, don't drink that, don't eat that, don't watch that, don't watch that. Oh yes, next week we're talking about the mead jar and feeling every bit as grumpy as usual.
Silly little twat, right, little bigoted nit.
Fucking never want to read that again.
It's ugly, it's vicious, it's spiteful. But do I read it? Of course I read it.
In the Made in Britain slot tomorrow from 9,